Hey, fellow PA32 owners. I wanted to start this video on panel overlay here at my home garage because I did all the paneling in my garage and then I took it out to the plane to test fit it and everything. I would recommend doing it that way because grinding the plastic, it makes a bunch of little particles and you can get a pretty close template and then take it out to the airplane, do some final adjustments, then bring it back to your garage and work on it. If you do have a big enough hanger where you can cut some plastic, those kinds of things, then by all means. What I did was I started with just a piece of thin plastic, really thin plastic, like sometimes called Corplast, and it's a very, very easy plastic. You can cut with a pair of scissors. And I kind of did that to get the general layout. Once I did that, I traced that onto a piece of 100 thou polystyrene. So that's what this is. This is one of my first ones that I made. And so I went through, traced it onto here, cut this out, then took this out to my plane. And when I got it out there, then I went through and made notes on here about where things needed to move. And so I was able to take this rough template, go through, move things slightly. You know, I ended up getting rid of an instrument, so I plugged that hole up. As I went through and drilled my holes, I went through and located where they needed to move from or to get everything to line up right. Came back, cut a new piece. When you buy the material, it will come in sheet form like this, smooth side, rough side. I did the smooth side facing out so that then I could do that carbon decal over the top of it. I had a local shop here in town do it. I'll put a link to them down below. I'm sure you have one in your area. And so for the two parts of the panel, here's a picture of each one. And for the upper one, like I said, I used a thicker material. It's about 100 thou, 0.9, something like that. And I found that to be the right balance between rigidity and then making it becoming too thick where then it kind of makes all the gauges seem sunken in. But tool-wise, all you really need, I used a vibratory cutter and some hole saws, and then some step drills. Step drills work really easy for going through the different holes and getting them the right diameter. And that kind of made one of my first templates. From there, I then made another one. This was one of my earlier ones also, before I did my panel update. And it just kind of gave me something good to work with. Then when I went and redid my panel, I went and taped over all the stuff that I knew I didn't need anymore. Then for the lower parts, so the lower parts were actually a little bit more difficult. One of the things was you can't use the same thickness material. You do have to go with a thinner material. So this material was 070, so quite a bit more flexible. Still the same supplier, still the same source, everything, just a thinner material. But you can see how easily this bends without breaking or anything. And the advantage here was that once I got my rectangle shape, then I was able to just simply bevel this edge at a 45. And then when it came time to put it in, I could very easily bend it and snap it into that slot, you know, between the upper and lower panel. And so here, I'll go ahead and bounce over. Here's some of me and the plane actually going through more detail there. Backstory on this was when I bought the plane, it obviously had the two plastic pieces left and right side, then the two plastic pieces down low here. And as I went through and updated my panel, I started ending up with all these open holes everywhere. Not to mention, I thought it looked rather fragmented, with just kind of all the different pieces. The other thing that came up was that when I was looking at doing a powder coated and laser etched overlay, the thing I didn't like about that was that if anything ever changed, the whole thing had to be thrown away and you had to start over. And I looked at it as, gosh, I would like to have something that could be a little bit more flexible. Not to mention, and this is my own bias, so nothing against you out there that have the powder coated laser etched overlays. For me, it just looked dry. Like they're either gray or black. It's just a slab of metal. You know, to some it looked very professional, which is super cool. For people like myself, it just looked a little bit impersonal and just a little bit too sterile. And so I wanted to have something that got a little bit more style or a little bit more personality to it. I did mine in a couple phases. So the first part was this upper piece that's all one section. Then I did these two lower sections afterward. So like in this situation, I localized off the bottom rail. So sat it down on that rail, got it centered left, right. That got my Y and my X axis in the right place. Then I went through and marked everything. So with the silver Sharpie, I was able to say, okay, this hole needs to move, you know, 1/4 of an inch to the left or 1/4 of an inch down, and wrote on all that. Then when I went and made the new one, I went and laid this, you know, the temporary template on there, transferred those notes over. So I knew, for example, when I drilled the new hole, where that center hole needed to move. Overall, I'm really happy with it. I like the look of it. I like that it's all one piece. I went with a matte carbon fiber overlay because I didn't want to have the shine to it. So I'm really happy with how that all came out. One thing I wish I would have done differently, and I can still do it, I just haven't made it a priority, is that I obviously have some open holes here in the back of the panel, like right here. What I would have liked to do is 3D print a little sleeve that slid in there that then surface mounted here. So then I had a spot, for example, for like a pair of sunglasses. You know, I could have made a little lip on the front so it slid in there rather than just covering those up. I think that would have been nice. But I do recommend doing it as all one piece. I think it looks a lot cleaner. And yeah, that's all there really is to the top part of it. You can see here how I did mine. I simply just cut out for the yoke square. You know, you can do what you want, but I wanted to have it so that then, you know, these could be removed or changed without having to take the yoke off to be able to do so. Then what you do is you basically put it in, you squeeze it so it's bent and snap it in. I would not recommend you do this as one piece, because having it in two pieces, then what you're able to do is tuck the ends back in behind the side panels to give it a finished look. And then also that gives you a gap right here, which is actually really important to be able to bend and be able to pop these out, or when you're trying to bend them to snap them in. Like I said, like it better than an aluminum powder coated sheet, but it's up to you of what you prefer. And yeah, if you have any comments or any questions I can answer, definitely throw them down below and I'd love to help.